Mayyeva manadhatsva Mayi buddhim niveshaya Nivasishyasi mayyeva Ata udhvam na sanshayah. So now that he has said, Arjun, this is it. Learn to love and devote yourself to God. So now the question arises. We are convinced of the path. We have reached one level of understanding. So what to do? Just because you know how to go from here to Louisiana doesn't mean that you have reached Louisiana. Knowledge is one thing, its practical implementation is another. So now when the question arises what to do, he says, look Arjun, you do these two things. He says, offer your mind to me. How do you offer your mind? Let all your thoughts become godly. So let every thought be for his pleasure, imbued with his consciousness. Then the mind is offered. This one point is invariably missed out. Everybody is going to the temple all around the world. But what are they doing? They are doing physical bhakti. Take the Aarti plate and do a physical drill, Jai Jagadish Hare. And the mind is elsewhere. I wonder how much Panditji will be getting in the thali offering. Or you take your body and do marching to the holy places. Badrikashram, Dwarkapuri, Jagannath Puri, Rameshwaram. When I first started going to Gujarat and I would do intercity travel, I would see hundreds of people on the road. So I would ask, what are they doing on the road? Somebody said, Swamiji, one person is going from here to Ranchhodji, walking 40 kilometers. Somebody is going from here to Ambaji, 200 kilometers. Somebody is going to Dwarka, 400 kilometers walking. So they are doing physical bhakti. The intention is good, but the mind is unfocused. The mind is thinking, my God, it's a hot day and I'm hungry and I'm thirsty. So, physical bhakti, we have done it for many lifetimes now. It's time to move ahead. Hence, the verse, Mala pherat yug phira, phirana man ka phera, karka man ka darike, man ka pher. Saint Kabir says, look, you kept on rotating these beads, japa. So you kept on rotating them and the whole age got rotated. But the mind remained the same. Now put it down. Change your focus, change your understanding and start rotating the beads of the mind. So remember, the mind is so important. Your bondage or liberation from it will be determined by the state of your mind. God says it is all right, physically you are engaging in bhakti. But what I see is, where is your mind? If physical bhakti could result in God realization, by now we would all have attained enlightenment. Because if in one lifetime we have taken the name of God once, in so many lifetimes we've taken the name of God innumerable times. We've been to the holy places, we have kept purificatory fasts, we have done all kinds of chants and praises and everything, but we have not paid attention to the mind. One person, grandfather, he had given his shoes to the cobbler, and he was sitting in his puja room in the morning time doing his worship, when his friend, another grandfather in the neighborhood, came to meet and asked, "So and so there? Harshad bhai?" "No, my father-in-law is not there. Presently, he's at the cobbler's shop and he's asking how much for the stitching of the shoes, and the cobbler is saying 12 annas and he's saying, I'll give you only 4 annas. So the grandfather came out. "Arey beti, what are you talking about? Don't you know I was inside?" "Yes, father-in-law, you were inside, but 3 times you came out and asked, has the cobbler returned my shoes as yet or not? So you were physically doing the worship and your mind was at the cobbler's shop, so I just told him where your mind is." That is why Shree Krishna says, offer your mind to me. And to offer the mind, you don't even need to go to Vrindavan. You can sit right here and take your mind to Vrindavan. Now we all want to go for sacred baths, but the Manusmriti says, Yamo vai vasvato devo yasta vaisharidisthitaha tena cheda vivadaste ma ganga ma kurungama. God is sitting inside you. The day you accept this, that day there is no further purpose going to bathe in the Ganga or to visit Kurukshetra. You just sit here and think, I am bathing in the Ganga. You will get the same fruit. That is why there was one saint called Sant Ravidas. Heard of his name? This Sant Ravidas, his saying was, he was a cobbler, and great kings were his disciples. So somebody used to ask him, come, let's go and bathe in the Ganga. And Ravidas would say, look, jo man changa to kathauti mein Ganga. If my mind is pure, the Ganga manifests right here for me in this pot. And he actually proved it to that guy. It's a huge story. But the point is that physically you may or may not engage in devotion, but the mind must be absorbed. And that is why in this satsang, we have used this threefold process. Now there is no puja going on here, right? Just chanting, hearing and remembering. Because minimum physical encumbrances, they are just assisting in your inward journey. The mind. And the second thing he says is the intellect. Offer your intellect to me. Even more important than the mind is the intellect. This intellect is so important that we move in our life in accordance with the beliefs of our intellect. If your intellect is convinced that money is the most pleasurable item in the world, your whole life deviates in the direction of earning money. If your intellect is convinced that it's power and prestige that brings the greatest bliss, you are in the pursuit of that. And if your intellect is convinced that true happiness and fulfillment is in God, then you find yourself in a retreat like this. So why did you come here? Because your intellect told you that this is the best use of this weekend. That is why the intellect is the supreme amongst all the machinery that God has given to us. We say, my mind is not under control. Actually, it is completely controllable by the intellect. The day the intellect decides, it will control the mind. Have you ever seen, it's a very rare sight, where people scream and shout at their boss. I have seen husbands screaming and shouting at their wife. But I have never seen people screaming and shouting at their boss. The same person. The boss says that you are a fool, you are a loafer. Yes sir, yes sir, yes sir. Arey, what happened to all of your anger? You know, out here if I become angry, I'll lose my job. So with the intellect, they control their anger when they realize that it's dangerous. Which means they have the ability to control the mind if the intellect so decides. And then they go home and throw it all upon the wife. And the wife, what will she do? She vents her anger on the child. Child, what to do? He shows his anger to the dog. So the anger is always flowing downwards. Upwards, it's being controlled by the intellect. So this intellect is so powerful. Now if I ask you, do you all enjoy the work that you do? 90% of the people worldwide, they say, I don't enjoy it, I just do it because I have to do it. Most of the people. Many years ago, in India, one guy had said to me, Swamiji, aaj to maja aa gaya. Today I am so happy. I said, what happened? Oh, the government has declared a holiday. I said, why? He said, the president has died. He said, come on, the president has died and you're saying I'm so happy. I said, the main thing is I have got holiday from work. That work is seeming so terrible. Now you say it happens only in India. It happens more in America because here you have restaurants, TGI Fridays, right? So everybody loves the weekend. And yet, when you work for 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours a day, just keep your mind under control and keep working. How does it become possible? The reason is the intellect has decided. The mind says, can I sit at home with my family? The intellect says, you'll lose the job. Carry on working. Once the intellect decides, it brings the mind under control. Now we say, my mind doesn't stay in God. What is the reason, Swamiji? The reason is, your intellect is not yet fully resolved. That what I am looking for, I will get it from there. Yeah, I'll get it from there, but the 8 to 9 p.m. serial on TV is also very enjoyable. So the mind gets divided. That is why Lord Krishna says that this intellect, you offer it to me. And why should we offer it to him? What does it mean? It means that you make it run in accordance with that higher knowledge. Even in the world, where you find your intellect doesn't suffice, you take support of somebody with bigger intellect. Like let's say you are involved in some kind of legal matters, there is some case. Now you don't have an understanding of the law. So you go and consult a lawyer. In that field, the lawyer is expert. So the lawyer says, okay, now you will go by my intellect. When you go into that witness box, if the opposing lawyer asks this, you say like that. And if he asks that, you say like this. And if he says anything further, just keep quiet. So because in law matters, you are zero. You go as per his intellect. And you win the case. The opposing lawyer says, my God, this guy, I just could not get anything out of him. Well, the same we do with doctors as well. We know that this doctor has spent a lifetime in this field. This doctor is expert. So if I want my body to be treated, my intellect doesn't have the capacity. I surrender my intellect to the doctors. So here Shree Krishna is saying that, look, Arjun, your intellect is defective. My intellect is defective? How dare you say that? Well, in the materially conditioned state, no matter how much of a super genius we may be, our intellect has got some defects. Maharshi Patanjali in his Yoga Darshan has called it Panchaklesh. Avidya, Asmita, Raga, Dvesh, Abhinivesh. However, the same defects of the intellect in the Bhagavad, they are simply explained by Akrur. Anitya anatma dukkheshu viparyaya matirhyaham. He says that our intellect has suffered a reversal. What is that reversal? Anitya, the temporary things. We are according them as much value as if they were permanent. When you know, you will leave it all behind. Have you ever heard of a billionaire taking 1 billion with them after death? Never. People ask, how much did that Nagar Seth, the big businessman of town, how much did he leave when he died? Nobody says, how much did he take away? Well, the answer is he left everything, isn't it? He left everything. So we know it is all temporary, but yet we don't act with that knowledge. Intellect doesn't have the faith. Anatma, the body, which is not the self, which is made of mud. We see it as the self. Now imagine, supposing now I saw that parking lot, the hotel parking lot, variety of different cars. So you go and ask one driver, who are you, sir? He says, I am a Toyota. And you ask the next person, who are you? He says, I'm a Ford. And the third person, he says, I'm Nissan. I say, my God, these people are crazy. I asked the driver who they are and they introduced their car. So likewise, we are introducing our bodies. I am this body. And one day it's going to go back to mud. So this is the second reversal of the intellect. And dukkheshu, all the miseries of the world. You know what is the reason for them? The desires that we make. So these desires we make for happiness. But we are making them in the wrong direction. And the consequence, we are experiencing misery. So the nature of the world is there's an illusion of happiness. And you run after it. It's like running after a mirage. You can keep running for the end of the rainbow. You will just keep on and on running. So this is the third reversal of our intellect. And we can change this whole situation. It's not that we become enlightened and get divine intellect and then all the problems will be solved. Today itself, you run your intellect according to divine knowledge. What my Guru has given, what the scriptures has given. And you move, do your actions accordingly. So your actions will be perfectly aligned when the intellect is surrendered. So Lord Krishna says, do these two things, Arjun. You will then live in me because your consciousness is united in me. So nice, correct? But too idealistic. We are not at that stage, Shree Krishna, what to do? Shree Krishna says, don't worry. Listen to the next verse.